Ah yes, the humble music video. The music video is a truly unique art form which developed from the idea of a simple promotional film showing a band playing their new single, all the way into a big budget cinematic 3-minute blockbuster. It's more than likely that your favourite song has tied with it a music video that brings back fond memories of your favourite artist. Throughout the decades, we've seen some truly bizarre and controversial music videos that have become ingrained into popular culture. There exists, however, one music video that was deemed so outrageous, so perverse, and so disgusting that it was seized by the police and has, in the 40+ years since shooting, never once been broadcast on television. This is the story of the music video so offensive that it was seized by the police. Our story begins in late 1981 with the pioneering synthesizer duo Soft Cell. The band, consisting of Mark Almond on vocals and Dave Ball on synthesizers, had become an overnight sensation thanks to their enduring hit single, Tainted Love. At the end of 1981, the band had just released their groundbreaking debut album titled Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret. To accompany the album, the band's madcap 19-year-old manager, Steve O. Pierce, who was also the founder of the label to which Soft Cell were signed, Some Bizarre Records, had an idea to push the duo even further into the limelight by utilising an at the time exciting and relatively new form of media. This media format was the music video, which, thanks to the launch of MTV in America, the channel solely playing music videos for 24 hours a day, the music video was starting to become an essential ingredient in the success of a new single. Steve-O's idea was not just to make any old music video. His vision was to create a music video for every single track on the Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret album, which could then be combined into a full movie and then released on home media for Soft Cell fans to watch at their own leisure. At the helm of this mammoth project was the director Tim Pope, with whom the band had already worked with on the videos for their singles Bedsitter and Say Hello, Wave Goodbye. Tim's long association with Soft Cell began after he talked his way into the Some Bizarre offices by lying about all the major videos he'd made, before pitching to Mark Almond the idea of the Bedsitter video. With a budget of around £60,000, the band, along with Pope, began creating what would eventually become the video album Non-Stop Exotic Video Show. Of all the 12 music videos that ended up on the futuristic video show, the music video for track 5 from Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret ended up landing both Pope and the band in rather hot water. One day, whilst reading the now defunct News of the World newspaper, Mark Almond came across the headline titled "Sex Dwarf Lures 100 Disco Dollies to a Life of Vice." This headline was so absurd and bizarre, it prompted Almond and Ball to create a hypnotic track commenting on the bizarreness of tabloid journalism, as well as newspaper rumours involving their own private lives. The resulting track, eventually titled Sex Dwarf, became a raucous and hilarious celebration of BDSM and kink culture, as well as a statement about the absolute state of tabloid journalism. Both Soft Cell and Tim Pope decided that they would push the boundaries of an already very risque song with a video that would be a rather extreme reaction to the controversial music video for Duran Duran's hit single, Girls on Film. Directed by Godley and Cream and released in July 1981, the video for Duran Duran's third single featured tasteful nudity during the glamorous and lavish film. As a result, the video was banned by the BBC, as well as being heavily edited before it was broadcast on MTV, with Duran Duran relishing in its notoriety. Soft Cell were, however, determined to take this one step further by creating a video so outrageous and grotesque that it would eventually become the stuff of legend. Filmed at St John's Wood Studios in London, which ironically enough was previously a church, the Sex Dwarf video featured a cast of characters the likes of which had never been seen before by the record-buying public. Chief amongst these was a 20-year-old named Tony Cooper, whom Almond had met at a West End club prior to the shoot. Tony, who stands at the height of 4 feet and 2 inches, came to the group's attention after he began performing a show titled The Sex Dwarf, in which he would mime to the song on stage. According to Almond, Tony would repeatedly telephone the Soft Cell offices, begging to be included in the band's next music video. Also featured alongside Cooper in the video were several transgender women that the band knew from their seedy Soho headquarters. Now we get on to the contents of the music video itself. And I must warn you, this isn't the video to be watching with your parents, or with a nice meal in front of you. The video begins with a naked woman tied to a table with a variety of chains and straps in a setting which is a bizarre spoof of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with raw animal carcasses hanging from the ceiling. As Mark caresses and leers over the woman delivering Sex Dwarf's lyrics, Dave Ball is on hand, playing a chainsaw with a violin bow, before the lights go up and the video becomes, for want of a better word, extremely weird and awkward. More women run into the set with men on leashes dressed in varying degrees of nudity, bondage gear and fetish wear. After the meat carcasses are attacked, the video reaches its next peak, as Tony Cooper is released from a crate dressed in a black harness and hood, on the end of a long black leash held by Almond, who himself is sporting a rather skimpy vest and shorts combo. The next 2 minutes of the video can only be described as absolute chaos, featuring bloody meat and offal being thrown around and the tied down woman being toyed with. To be honest, it is rather disgusting and repulsive, featuring enough bloody meat, bondage and chainsaw whipping action to upset even those with the strongest stomachs. The strangely sexual, gross-out nature of the film peaks towards the end, as Tim Pope threw in a little surprise that the cast had no idea about. In an interview, Tim explained that after covering the studio floor with milk and offal, with the music blaring extremely loud, he surprised the cast and began throwing live maggots at them. It took a few minutes for everyone to realise exactly what was going on, but after the maggots started flying, the girls, Tony, Dave Ball and everyone else began to scream and ran away from the studio in horror, thus ending the chaotic shoot. The production of the video with all of the meat, maggots and offal even ended up permanently damaging the studio, meaning that the studio floor had to be entirely replaced afterwards. Whilst making the video, Almond and company knew that it would likely never be shown on television, but even so were woefully unprepared for what was to happen next. One important little fact also to mention with Tony Cooper is that he was in a band known as Red Lipstick and had a manager of his own by the name of Jock McDonald. According to Mark Almond, Jock McDonald was rather unscrupulous and sent Tony into Glow Productions Limited in order to obtain what was an unfinished copy of the video. The video was then copied allegedly by Jock and then sent to all of the major tabloid newspapers in a brown paper bag. To make things worse, Tony himself also told the newspapers that he'd been exploited by the band during the making of the video, claiming he'd only been paid £40 to participate in the film. Sex Dwarf was also able to cause a riot after being shown by Steve-O during a personal appearance by the band at Cinderella's Disco in Hickstead, Sussex. According to a report in the Record Mirror, the audience was so outraged by the video that they even attempted to attack the band, with Tim Pope remembering that it got so dangerous that they had to escape the venue through a toilet window. Things then took an even more bizarre turn when the News of the World, whose fabricated headlines had birthed the song, published a story which claimed that Mark Almond, after the video shoot, had drugged Tony and taken him to his hotel room and made him perform bizarre sexual acts for his own sick, twisted pleasure. Within days of these headlines, the video became the stuff of absolute legend, with bootleg copies being sold in and around various adult stores in Soho for the price of £30 each. To give you an idea how much outrage the clip was causing, here's what the Record Mirror wrote about the video in the June 19th, 1982 issue of the magazine. Soft Cell have made a pornographic video as outrageous as those shown in London's Soho. Lead singer Mark Almond is shown masturbating through his clothes and rubbing raw meat into naked women. But Mark Almond insists the video isn't offensive. Seemingly overnight, the image of the clean-cut pop stars had disappeared, and Soft Cell were now seen as an incredibly perverse and disgusting group by the record-buying public. Even director Tim Pope was hounded by the press and chased repeatedly by gangs of reporters from the News of the World. Tim eventually flew to Greece for a holiday in order to escape the intense heat him and the band were facing. Eventually, word reached the Metropolitan Police's Vice Squad of all the outrage this obscene piece of media was causing, which led to the climax of this strange tale. At the some bizarre offices at the Trident Studios complex on Wardour Street, Steve-O watched from the roof as the boys in blue rolled up ready to arrest him and seize this obscene video. However, after explaining the situation to the officers, they were unable to file any charges and subsequently left empty-handed. Now that's one version of the tale according to the Evening Standard. The other version of the story, which has become enshrined into urban legend, is that after arriving, the police seized and confiscated the tape, which has never been seen again. I'll let you decide which version you'd rather believe. Soft Cell had now found themselves embroiled in a larger cultural row surrounding the massive topic of media censorship and the video nasty. Eventually, outraged video retailers such as WH Smith's, after hearing the story of Sex Dwarf and the police raid, refused to stock the non-stop exotic videotape unless the Sex Dwarf video was removed. Begrudgingly, in order for the video to be released, Soft Cell reshot the video in a hilariously PG version involving Mark and Dave dressed in suits, stood behind music stands, mixed in with footage of the band's performance on the All Grey Whistle test, as well as reusing footage from the Say Hello, Wave Goodbye music video. Though at first they revelled in the chaos they had caused, the Sex Dwarf video had, if you'll pardon the pun, tainted the reputations of both Tim Pope and Soft Cell, with the band flat out refusing to play the song live ever again due to all the pain and struggle that it had caused them. Sex Dwarf, however, was eventually played live by the band at their 2018 farewell gig and on their 2021 tour, playing the whole of the non-stop erotic cabaret album for its 40th anniversary. At the time of recording, the original unedited Sex Dwarf video has never once been fully broadcast on British television. In 2004, Channel 4 even made a documentary titled X-Rated, the pop videos they tried to ban. And 22 years later, Sex Dwarf was still too problematic to be aired. A few seconds of the video occasionally pop up in documentaries about the band, but as Tim Pope mentions on his website, the master tape of the video is long lost. This means that the only copies in circulation are the low quality under-the-counter bootlegs from the Soho adult stores. If you're curious enough and want to see some of the blood-soaked meat-rubbing action yourself, you can find it with a little bit of Googling. Unfortunately, it seems that the video will never see any kind of official release, as over the years, the band began to revel in the project's cult status as this unseen epic. Despite this intense controversy, over the years, all parties involved have expressed fond memories of the project and are incredibly proud of the uproar they were able to cause. Even Tony Cooper, who initially claimed to be exploited by the group, looked back fondly on its production, remarking that it was great fun and that he just did it for a laugh. And there you have it, the story of the music video so gross and offensive that it almost caused Soft Cell and Steve-O to get nicked. I hope you enjoyed taking a trip back into one of the most famous video nasties ever created. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you'll all come back soon.